Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is a follow-on session, just following up on the material that we shared on the morning show and BHPH Success and other channels, but wanted to have a chance to introduce the actual numbers that I referred to in that morning session as promised, and I owed an answer to another dealer who had inquired about the same thing that we often have asked when we're working with new dealers is, generally how much inventory should I expect, or how much sales volume can I reasonably expect on inventory of a certain size? When we're working with new dealers, it's often kind of asked in a different way, like how much inventory do I need to produce a certain amount of sales? And so hopefully the information that I'm about to share here will give some clue about that. And again, in the session this morning, you'll want to find that and kind of, pair that with the information that I'm going to express here, because I explained kind of in a longer form, what the information really means. But as I go through the actual data, what I wanted to have a chance to point out is that we've actually got 2 sales locations with this client. This is a client we've worked with for more than 6 years. We've been doing their data services now for almost 5 years. And so you're seeing 58 months again worth of data, and starting in July of 2017. And this dealer runs pretty small inventory at the sales locations, and then keeps a significant amount of inventory in the pipeline, to be able to feed the 2 lots. And so that's an important thing to recognize right off the bat. Is part of the reason that this dealer is able to create the volume that you're going to see is because of their ability to, quickly refill the line and to keep inventory moving. So you can see that this particular location, number 1, averages across those 58 months, 15 cars on the lot at the opening or closing of the month. And then location number 2, that number is 16. Okay. But they keep 110 cars on average in the reconditioning center. So, I know from working with their data that 110 count would include trade-ins, repos that have recently been acquired, not yet liquidated. And, and they will resell some of those repos. And of course, it would also include incoming vehicles that are in the reconditioning process. There was also a mention in the Facebook group that we're part of, the question about timing of titles and selling cars in advance of titles arriving. I can just tell you this particular dealer, we're not inside their operation in that way, but I can tell you this dealer has a high level of integrity, and shouldn't be any question about that in this particular dealer's case. Now, let me go on through the numbers then. You can see down here that they average total then of 140 vehicles in stock. They have average numbers on cost cars pretty low across the whole 5 years almost of data. And they've obviously, like everybody else, been affected in recent years with COVID and the inventory shortage, but still across that time period, that's been their average. Now, the thing to understand about, even though they're only running on an average of 31 units on the ground to start the month, they average 92 buy here, pay here contracts per month. And they only do a small number of cash sales. You can see they only average 1 per month and 2 outside finance transactions. So really low numbers there. They're really a buy here, pay here operation. And then you've got total sales on numbers. You've got, and then I just now realized that's in the wrong column. That's the average column. Oh, no, that is right. That's the average of the total sales dollars of those sold. And then as we go on down, you got some averages. But the real point I wanted to bring forward in what we're talking about with relative to the inventory turn is these numbers at the bottom. When you look at inventory turn analysis, there's different ways to do that. You can look at dollars, which I definitely recommend looking at dollars, because that's really, your total assets and inventory. How many dollars are tied up in your inventory is certainly a factor. It's going to be, we want to be efficient with those assets and the dollars that we have tied up there. So I would definitely recommend looking at the dollars. Then we look at the same thing in units instead. And at the bottom, this section at the bottom, I look just at cars that are available for sale relative to what sold. So now you're looking past all the wholesale stuff, anything else, that's kind of in the pipeline. You're just looking at how many cars were available for sale and how many did we sell. And that's also important because that tells us the rate at which the pipeline is moving. It tells us how fresh the inventory is and how frequently it turns over, which I think we all understand ties back to, as we talked about on the morning show, all the things that, have some bearing on, just attitude, morale at the lot, enthusiasm, just having inventory fresh is, there's a lot to be said for that. So what you can see down here at the bottom, if I jump kind of to the really, interesting numbers to me, or look at the dealer averages at the start of each month, 30.5 units between the two locations. They averaged 91.9 or 92 sales per month across that entire period of time. And that averages out to 3.6 turns per month on their available inventory. So again, just to recap one more time, that's just looking at inventory that shows to be available at the start of the month, which is where that the 15, 16, and that's actually on their lots at their sales location, because they're able to flag the inventory in that way. And so we know it's definitely at the location. And then we typically look at all these things on a 4-month rolling average basis. You can see the 4-month rolling average there, and again there. And then we chart this over here. But before I jump over to the chart, I want to explain that, you can see that in terms of dollars, the average for all of these months is 1.2 in terms of dollars. It's 1.1. Again, that's per month. So you can see that's 14.4 in terms of rolling average. Should probably look at the one above, 14.7 in terms of an annualized number based on dollars, and 12.9 annual turns based on units. And then we can look, when we see the graphing on this data, you can see that, on the low end of their chart, they're dipping down to about 2 turns per month based on available inventory only. So this is the rate at which their inventory is turning over. So we see, the 4 and 5, and then they even spiked up here to 6. What is this? Summer of 21, they spiked up to 6 turns monthly. So, you're talking about having a 15-car inventory, and what does that translate to? 90 sales out of a 15-car inventory. And I think their highest volume has been about 140 sales in a single month. But again, this is what we really wanted to be able to have a chance to illustrate, because many of us are out there talking about numbers and what's possible and what's not possible. And I just wanted to share the actual numbers from a client where we have a pretty good string of data, and wanted people to be able to have that as a point of reference when you're thinking about how to create that pipeline. So again, find that other video, because it really addresses more of the things about all the limiting factors, all the factors really that go into, what dictates our rate of inventory turn. So again, this information I hope will be useful. We just wanted you to see the real data behind the conversation. Thanks.